clearly visible, Commissioners.
Thank you, General. You may continue from there. Oh, sorry.
Sorry. General, presumably the law enforcement is able to identify or has identified who is Jaguar, who is TikTok, who does that W footprint or fingerprint belong to in terms of the owners of these drugs.
Commissioners, this is part of the evidence that I would prefer not to delve too deep into, because this is transnational smuggling of narcotics in nature, and this goes back to the origin of the cocaine that's being smuggled into South Africa. So I would prefer, with your permission, not to go too deep into that, because that forms part of bigger, obviously, transnational investigations that are continuing.
I wasn't asking you to name them. I just wanted to find out the principle that law enforcement is able to put their fingerprint to a particular group.
Indeed, Commissioner. Indeed, that's
Thank you.
true.
Thank you, General. Paragraph 44.
According to the officers at the crime scene, photographs of the seizure were taken by Lieutenant Colonel Jacob and Warrant Officer KG Sabia. The officers decided to convey the suspected cocaine to the Isipingo police station for a detailed count. According to the officers, the crime scene was becoming busy with warehouse staff. Colonel Jacob, Warrant Officer Mpangase, KG Sabia, and Sergeants Govender and Mkize loaded the canvas bags into a marked police vehicle.
General, Sergeants Govender and Mkize, are they also within DPCI?
No, Commissioners, they were from border policing based in Durban Harbour.
Okay, thank you. You may proceed.
At the police station, Warrant Officer Mpangase entered the exhibits into the Isipingo SAP-13. Warrant Officer Perumal of the Isipingo police station, responsible for the SAP-13 register, acknowledged that the exhibits were entered into the SAP-13.
General, can you just explain that process to us, the SAP-13, how does it work? So they've got 541 bricks, kilograms of cocaine. How are they entering it into the SAP-13?
Well, Commissioners, the procedure is that the SAP-13 or the exhibit register during normal or 24-hour basis is kept in the community service center or the charge office, as it's known. So whenever exhibits need to be entered, the official like Warrant Officer Mpangase would then get hold of the register and then enter all the exhibits into that register and sign that he is handing that exhibits into the register. So he will have to give an full explanation of the exhibits that's being handed in, the exhibit seal numbers, the contents of the exhibits, etc. So there's a whole array of aspects that need to be covered when exhibits are entered into that register. Subsequent to that, the officer in command of the SAP-13, or commonly known as the SAP-13 clerk, will then acknowledge the exhibits, so he will sign for the exhibits and then place it in safe custody within the walk-in safes at that specific police station.
You mentioned an exhibit seal number. What is that?
Well, Commissioners, as I've explained a bit earlier, it's important to seal all exhibits as far as possible at the crime scene in order to preserve the integrity of the crime, obviously the investigation, but also the chain of custody. So it means that the exhibits, the bricks of cocaine, need to be placed in, they call it intervoid or non-tamper evidence bags, and then it gets sealed, and each and every bag has a unique reference number. So all of that needs then to be entered into this register when the exhibits are deposed at the police station.
Now, at the time when these officers entered the exhibits into the SAP 13, did they have seal numbers, exhibit seal numbers?
No, Commissioners, because the exhibits was not sealed.
So what would they have entered into the SAP 13?
Commissioners, I can verify that from the entries, but they've just given an explanation of the exhibits that's being entered.
So just the description of it?
That's
not
correct,
without the
Commissioners.
number?
That's correct. There could have been no seal numbers because the exhibits was not sealed.
Okay, thank you.
General, does that mean then that, maybe let me ask my question differently. Is there a way, given what you've just said now, explaining they were not sealed, and so there were no seal numbers at that point, is there a way of independently, that you would independently have been able to verify that indeed it was 551 bricks of cocaine that were found in that container? And I'm talking about what happens from the time that that container is open up to this warrant officer Perumal, where they get to him and then ask for the SAP 13 register.
Yes, indeed, Commissioners. If proper crime scene notes or contemporaneous notes were kept by the lead investigator, obviously during that counting process there, it will be recorded either in a pocketbook or on foolscap. That's the first safeguard. Then obviously it gets placed in exhibit seal bags, sealed, and upon handing in at the police station, the SAP 13 clerk will obviously then verify what he or she is accepting. And then the third safeguard obviously will then be when the exhibits is received at the Forensic Science Laboratory. It is opened by the analysts and then obviously counted again, and that will be independent verification then for the initial claims by the investigators that it's 541 bricks.
None of that happened here, those steps that you're describing.
That's correct, Commissioner.
Thank you. Thank you, Ms.
Thank you, Commissioner. And then you mentioned non-tamper evidence bags. What is the purpose of it being non-tamper?
The importance of that, Commissioners, is that we preserve the integrity of the exhibits. So it means that whenever that exhibits arrive in that exhibit seal bags at FSL and it has been tampered with, it will be clearly visible. Whether the seal was, for instance, if somebody tried to open it, or if somebody tried to cut the bag and then remove exhibits and then reseal it, that will be evident. So there is scientific safeguards built into those exhibit bags that prevent tampering, obviously to the benefit of preserving the integrity of the exhibits.
Now, if the process is done correctly and it's in the non-tamper evidence bag, who is authorized to open the bags?
Well, it depends on where in the value chain that exhibit is, Commissioner. But under normal circumstances, it will obviously be at the Forensic Science Laboratory, where the analyst that the matter is assigned to will open the exhibit bag. I cannot see another reason for reopening a bag and to remove exhibits from that without a good reason.
Assume that the process is followed correctly, and here you have the LCRC crime scene examiner bagging the evidence into these non-tamper bags at the crime scene. It goes to the to the police station. It's logged into the SAP 13 register, and then it's stored. Can somebody from FSL request that the investigating officer or somebody from LCRC open the bag in order to get a sample, for example?
Commissioners, if that happens, I will find it extremely strange because the exhibits, according to the protocol, needs to be submitted to the Forensic Science Laboratory for obviously the weighing of the exhibits, photographing, the actual analysis. Because especially in a major drug bust, it serves no purpose for an investigator who has perhaps no scientific background to obtain samples, because we do not even know if it will be randomly obtained. So it makes no sense.
Thank you, General. So we were at paragraph 45, and you were dealing with Warrant Officer Perumal acknowledged that the exhibits were entered into the SAP 13, and you were at thereafter. It's the fourth line.
Yes. Thereafter, the exhibits were immediately signed out. So it means that Warrant Officer Perumal did not keep the exhibits in his safe custody. It was booked out immediately.
What does that mean, immediately?
Well, they basically, Commissioner, they basically booked in the exhibits and then booked it out immediately. So there's other columns in that register.
Simultaneously?
Simultaneously.
Yes. No, because if you know anything about this commission, you will know that immediately can mean the following month.
No,
So it was
immediately.
on the same day?
On the same day, at the same time and place, Commissioner.
Thank you, General. So it was immediately signed out, and then according to the officers?
According to the officers, there was not sufficient space at the Isipingo SAPS to store the exhibits. According to Warrant Officer Perumal, no inquiry was made with him regarding capacity to store the exhibits in the armory at Isipingo SAPS. According to Colonel Jacob, Brigadier Campbell Newswa gave an instruction to take the cocaine to Port Shepstone for storage after consulting Major General Sonona, Provincial Head of DPCI KZN.
Before you proceed, General, who's Brigadier Campbell Newswa?
Brigadier Newswa is the Provincial Commander for Serious Organized Crime within KZN DPCI Commissioners.
That was a position that you held at Northwest before.
That's correct, Commissioners.
Be reporting to?
By then, he would have been reporting to Major General Sonona.
Okay. You may proceed.
The exhibits were transported to the DPCI Port Shepstone Serious Organized Crime Investigation Unit's premises for storage. Lieutenant Colonel Prinsloo, who was the unit commander of the DPCI Tsoki, was informed of the arrangement and allowed the strong room at the premises to be used to store the exhibits. General Sonona took possession of the keys to the strong room after the exhibits were stored.
Can you just explain Lieutenant Colonel Prinsloo, his position as, you said unit commander, but in preparation for your evidence, you said he was the acting unit commander. So who would he have been reporting to as the unit commander?
Commissioners, he would have been reporting to Brigadier Newswa as a direct line of command, as the Brigadier was or is in command of serious organized crime investigation.
And then you say General Sonona took possession of the keys to the strong room after the exhibits were stored. Can you just explain that process? How does it work? The keys, where's the keys ordinarily kept?
Commissioners, it's in fact a very simple process, but the key holder, obviously when you take over a SAP 13 facility, you need to obviously conduct a proper audit of all the exhibits there. Under the circumstances here, all the other exhibits or articles were removed from the safe, but there needs to be a proper handing over of that facility then, obviously, as well as the key or keys to the SAP 13 or the vault.
And these keys are the keys to where the cocaine was going to be stored?
That's correct, Commissioners.
And routinely, who keeps that key? Is it, because General Sonona at that stage was the provincial head of DPCI. So this seems to me to be an operational matter, the keeping of the keys.
Commissioners, in practice, it is the SAP 13 custodian that will maintain the command and control over a SAP 13 facility. By no means the provincial head.
That was my follow-up question. Who was actually responsible for the custody of this consignment of drugs? And at what point did it move from SAPS to DPCI? Because my understanding is that if it had been at the Isipingo SAPS, SAPS would have been responsible for that. So
Yep.
how does it work when it then moves to the Port Shepstone warehouse of the DPCI? And who then becomes responsible? Is it still SAPS or is it now DPCI? Understanding that they are all part of SAPS, but they are just different units.
Yeah, Commissioners, thank you for that question. Obviously, if the exhibits were left at Isipingo after it was booked in, it would have been the responsibility of the station commander and obviously the SAP 13 clerk to ensure that the exhibits are kept behind lock and key. The moment the DPCI booked it in and booked it out immediately, they assumed responsibility for that exhibits.
But could DPCI do that?
That's correct, Commissioner. There is provisions to have separate SAP 13 facilities. By nature of our work, obviously, all exhibits cannot necessarily be immediately entered at the police station due to the sensitivity of investigations.
So you are satisfied that these exhibits were lawfully removed from Isipingo SAPS?
It's lawfully removed indeed, Commissioner.
Thank you.
General, as I think you call him the key holder. In this case, General Sonona became the key holder. Did I understand you correctly to say ordinarily a key holder would have had to satisfy themselves about what is in that in that space for which they are holding a key? So it's not simply a matter of it's sufficient to just take the key. You know there's that and you keep the key, but you have to be satisfied that what's in there is what they tell you has been put in that room. Is that how it works?
That's correct, Commissioner. You understand me 100% correct. It means that the general was supposed to satisfy him of the contents that's being placed in that vault before he assumed responsibility for the content as well as for the keys.
Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. General, do you know whether General Sonona was present when the drugs were put into the strong room?
That's correct, Commissioners. General Sonona was present at Port Shepstone when the exhibits were placed in the SAP 13 facility or the vault.
And can I just understand more about the possession of the keys? If you want to then access, if any of the investigating officers need to access the exhibits for whatever reason, how do they access it, and would they have to inform the key holder that they want to gain access?
In practice, Commissioners, the SAP 13 clerk or the custodian is the only person who is allowed to open that vault and to lock it again, because that maintains obviously chain of custody and ensure that if anything goes wrong, there's, for instance, exhibits missing from that safe, that